Hi. The way we're going to start our retouch today is to deal with the lines and wrinkles first. The areas that I want to deal with on this image will be down here, under the eyes. One or two maybe little freckles I may get rid of. There's one up here and there's one here that stand out a bit, but generally I don't like to get rid of those because they are actually real details on the face, and I don't like to change it too much. But the way that I'm going to do this is the same way as everybody else in the beginning, whereas what we're going to use is we're going to use the healing brush tool up here. Healing brush is great. It's a big change from the rubber stamp tool because obviously it changes the colour and changes the brightness of whatever you're copying from and to, so it makes your life really easy. But still, when I'm kind of in a company and I'm watching them work and I'm there to be a consultant or to teach or whatever, I'm watching people work and they will copy from one place to another, and then they quite often will undo what they've done because their mentality is to always get it right perfectly at the time you're doing it. So consequently you end up undoing all the errors you make, and in something as subtle as moving one flesh tone from one part of the face to another, it's very hard to get it right every time. So I can't possibly work like that. That just drives me insane. My method for doing this is to absolutely just create a copy of the image and just get rid of every single imperfection that I think that I may not want, because I want to have choice at the end. I want to add proportion at the end. I want to be able to feather my adjustment afterwards. If I just do it absolutely, there's no intermediate control. So it's really quite easy, really. I go absolutely crazy and get rid of every single line and imperfection on another layer, and then what I do is I use a mask to then add proportion and opacity to it. So let's just do it. It's very easy. All we're going to do is we're just going to go to my background layer at the top here, and then we make a copy, drag it down to the icon here, that makes a copy. On here I'm going to get rid of all the wrinkles completely. I'm going to organise my layers first though. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up to the wing menu and just say make a new group from layers, and then call this wrinkles. You'll see that by doing it that way, just selecting the layer and now creating the group, it puts the layer automatically inside the group. It means I just don't have to pick it up and put it in there afterwards, and closing the wing menu here just shows you that. So working on this background copy, I'm just going to select the healing brush tool. Let's zoom up the cheek area first, and I just want to get rid of these lines here, these ones down here first. So again, we're going to go absolute here. I'm just going to get rid of them, leaving loads and loads of imperfections behind me. Rough skin, mixture of texture, I really don't care about any of it. Of course there is a point at where you do have to worry about it, but for the most part I can just be really laid back with this and just go way over the top. So all I'm going to do is dab these areas in, taking the right kind of texture and just dropping it in on there. Now we'll deal with the eyes. Zoom that back just a little bit. Apple minus or control minus and plus for doing that. Hold down the Alt key. Let's just make the brush a bit smaller so it's the hard brackets next to the right hand side of the P on the keyboard. So if I now just get rid of these in here, just going to get rid of these darker areas underneath, smooth out the skin down the side of the nose here. And you see I can go absolutely crazy and get rid of everything. Let's move on to the other side, sample down here where it's kind of smooth, and then just get rid of the lines. The whole point of this is that I'm creating the kind of maximum retouch that I would ever want, and then I just add proportion to it afterwards. I'm going to get rid of this kind of slightly rougher patch of skin here as well and integrate it into the cheek area. Apple 0 or Control 0, hold down the space bar, put the image back in position. So what we're going to do now is just turn off the group that contains the wrinkles to see before and after, and you can see it's an enormous retouch here. I would never do this in a million years and let the job go like this. She just looks like a shop mannequin now. It needs to have some of those lines back in there. Now, instead of me doing the obvious thing, which would be just to do the boring changing of opacity, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to mimic the natural lines that were there in the first place by using one of the channels that makes up the original image. So if I go to the wrinkle layer group and turn that off, and then go to the red, the green and the blue, I'm just going to find the channel which shows me the wrinkle detail in its best contrast, and the red channel is usually always the one that I will use. It's like 99.9% of the time it will be the red, so for the most part I don't even think about it. If you look in here, we've got great definition of the lines and wrinkles in here, okay? And because there's a natural texture in this, when I just use this red just as it is as a mask, it adds proportion and texture to my copied area. So where I copied a really horrible flat looking tone, skin texture is going to be applied to it, but gradually. So all we've got to do here now to apply the red as a mask to the background copy is to hold down the Apple key or the Control key when I place the cursor over the red tab, and when I click the Apple or the Control, you see that this little square appears. If I click on it, it now just loads that red channel as a selection, which means I can now click on the RGB displaying the image. I can now go back to my wrinkles folder and turn it on, click on background copy, and this little button down here will add a layer mask. If I have a selection on the screen already, it would just simply use that. So if I just click this button now, watch what happens to the lines and wrinkles. They just come back by about 20 or 30%, but not a flat opacity. It has shape and it has proportion. So I can now just turn off lines and wrinkles, showing that, if we zoom up a bit so you can see it a bit better, turn it off, turn it on, that's showing me how much it's bringing back. If I now hold down the shift key and click actually on the mask itself, I can see the effect of the mask by turning it off and on. So that was with full retouch, and now this is with the proportion that is put in place by using the red channel. If you look here, there's a horrible line down here which I created by copying the wrong place. Remember when I said I could go a long way of creating a really horrible thing? That mask, by having that mask back on, watch what happens when I hold down the shift key and put it back on. You can't see any imperfection that I created. Infinitely quicker, total quality, and tons of control. So where I normally see people doing this and it takes them 10-15 minutes because they go round and round in circles undoing their work because they make mistakes, this I get it right every single time. I never have to redo anything, and it's just a sequence and a technique. So that's lines and wrinkles.